morning, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about the notes on World War I. So the Allies and the Central Powers competed in World War I. The Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, and Bulgaria. The Allied powers were England, France, Russia, the United States, which joined in 1917, and Italy, which joined in 1915, and 30 other states. There were four main underlying causes of World War I: nationalism, militarism, imperialism, and the alliance system. As an effect of nationalism, each nation wanted to be the strongest world power. People were so devoted to their nation that they followed it into war. Regions in the Balkans also wanted independence, which is what started the conflicts that spread the war. Following the principle of militarism, nations built up their militaries out of fear and suspicion. Governments gave military leaders major roles in government. Nations believed that if diplomacy failed, war was a valid political tool. Imperialism made Europe compete for colonies. For example, Germany and France fought over Morocco, and Austria and Russia fought over the Balkans. Throughout the 1880s, Bismarck had worked to isolate France by maintaining an alliance with Russia and Austria. By the 1890s, Europe had fallen into two armed alliances: the Triple Alliance, which was Germany, Austria, and Italy, and the Triple Entente, which was England, France, and Russia. So now let's talk about how this all kind of started in a literal way. So the catalyst for World War I was when Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, who was heir to the Habsburg dynasty. Princip was a member of the Black Hand, which was a Bosnian-Serbian nationalist group. Germany then gave Austria its full support to address Serbia. Then Austria confronted Serbia with an ultimatum: stop all anti-Austrian activity and allow Austrian officials to investigate the role of the Serbian government in the assassination. Serbia rejects the second part of this ultimatum. In reaction, Austria mobilizes for war in Serbia. Then Russia mobilizes for war in Austria because Russia and Serbia are allies. Then Germany asks Russia to demobilize, but they refuse. Germany then enacts the Schlieffen Plan and invades France through Belgium, drawing England into the war because France and England are allies. So there are many ways that this could have been prevented. Ferdinand was warned not to parade around Bosnia because there were radicalists in the area. If he had heeded their advice, then he would have never been assassinated. So let's just victim blame Ferdinand of this. Anyway, so Austria could have had a conference with Serbia and those involved instead of just giving them an ultimatum. Either party could have succeeded on the ultimatum. Serbia could have let Austria investigate, or Austria could have just accepted their request to investigate it themselves without Austrian interference. So Germany could have also not given Austria a blank check. They could have asked what they would be doing beforehand. Russia could have had a congress instead of mobilizing. Germany could have made a treaty with France using diplomacy to get out of the war so that Germany wasn't fighting France and France wasn't fighting Germany for no real reason. So none of these things actually happened. Let's talk about the characteristics now. So a stalemate dominated the Western Front in France. The old strategy of concentration of power was not suitable for modern warfare. Soldiers dug trenches and shot each other to try to get more territory in a strategy known as trench warfare. The space between the Axis and the Allies' trenches was known as no man's land. World War I will become a war of attrition, which is a prolonged war during which each side seeks to gradually wear out the other by a series of small-scale tactics. New weaponry made World War I more deadly than expected. Some examples were poison gas, the machine gun, barbed wire, landmines, hand grenades, submarines, tanks, and airplanes. On the Eastern Front, Germany captured a great deal of Russian land. Russia's army was the largest but also the least effective. On the Southern Front, between Italy and the Ottoman Empire, mountainous fighting was practiced in the Alps. On the home front, total war was practiced. The entire population of these nations were oriented towards the war effort. Government powers increased to ensure military success. Propaganda was introduced by the government to persuade the populace towards the war effort by playing on their emotions. Now let's talk about the end of World War I and how that played out. So the Russian Revolution occurred in 1917. Marxist Bolshevik revolutionists led by Vladimir Lenin overthrew Nicholas II of the Romanov dynasty. Lenin's motto was land, peace, and bread. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk between Russia and Germany ended Russia's part in World War I. The U.S. entered World War I in 1971 as well. 1917, not 1971, oh my god. 1917 as well. One cause of the U.S. entering the war was England finding the Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany asked Mexico to join them and get some of the land that the U.S. took away in return. So basically, Germany texted Mexico and was like, if you join us, then we'll get you that land that America stole from you. And Mexico was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So then the U.S. found it and got mad. Okay, so another cause was the United States' close social ties to England. The U.S. was also economically tied to the Allies. They supplied war materials to them, so the Allies owed the United States money, and thus the U.S. needed the Allies to come on top, because if they won, then they would be able to pay the U.S. back. So another cause of the United States joining World War I was Germany's unrestricted use of U-boats. This military strategy was seen as brutal, and it led to the sinking of the Lusitania, which many Americans died in. World War I ultimately ended with the German Revolution of 1918. With the original government overthrown and the Weimar Republic established, new German leaders signed an armistice, which is basically a ceasefire, on November 11, 1918. This ended World War I. So now that the forces involved with World War I stopped fighting, they had to make a peace agreement. The United States' President Wilson wrote 14 points on what the world powers should do to achieve peace. Wilson wanted a peace without rancor, a League of Nations, disarmament, and self-determination. Wilson hoped that World War I was a war to end all wars. It obviously wasn't. The main forces in the Paris Peace Conference to negotiate the end of World War I were Lloyd George of Britain, Clement Lou of France, and President Wilson of the United States. The British and French, having lost more in the war, wanted to punish Germany and demanded reparations, and they gave Germany complete blame over World War I in the War Suit Clause, which demanded an apology as well. So, results. As a result of World War I, Eastern European monarchies dissolved. In Germany, the Hohenzollerns were replaced by the Weimar Republic. The Habsburgs in Austria were replaced by independent nations. The Romanovs in Russia were replaced by a communist party, which was a dictatorship. Britain and France were weakened, while Germany remained the strongest nation in the continent. The United States became a world power. The League of Nations was created to provide collective security. However, it was flawed because Germany and Russia weren't allowed to join because they wanted to punish Germany, and Russia was communist and quit the war. So they weren't allowed to join, and the United States they refused to join because Congress wouldn't let them. So, where was I? Oh yeah, there was also no enforcement mechanism. So they couldn't actually do everything. They couldn't make sure that the other countries were doing what they said they'd do. So another result was self-determination in Eastern Europe. Major states were created such as Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and Iraq, which is not in Eastern Europe, but anyway. Italy and Japan became resentful because they were not properly rewarded for their efforts. Neither got the extra land that they were promised. The Italian irredenta means unredeemed Italy, and that is a word for the land that Italy was supposed to get, and that's why they joined the war, but they never actually got it. So, where was I? So Germany also resented their loss of territory, such as the Sudetenland to France, Alsace and Lorraine to France, the oil-rich land of Suar, and the independent port city of Danzig, which became a trading place for Poland. So Germany also resented the reparations, which were justified by the War Guilt Clause. These measures in the Treaty of Versailles led to the foundations of World War II. Overall, $350 billion in costs led the governments to raise taxes. world trade and living standards declined with the Great Depression, and 30 million people died. And so I hope, oh yeah, and also, I forgot to mention this, but there was a lost generation, which was the people who grew up after World War I, and they were writers and artists, and you could see they had a feeling of overall guilt, and all of the optimism of the Enlightenment was gone because there was nothing reasonable about what happened in World War I. I forgot to add that. But anyway, so now you know World War I, and I hope this helps you study. Bye.